Mari cik adik,
Mari cik abang,
mari kita berdendang sepinang muda.
Maligai bahagiamu telah kuruntuhkan. Darah bukan gadis lagi.
Usahlah anak punya program.
At the height of his career in the 50s and 60s, P.Ramlee was hailed as Asia's Charlie Chaplin.
Ia bukan insan seni penyulap harta negara. Ia bekalkan pusaka lebih berharga, bermaruah bagi bangsanya.
Because to me, P.Ramlee is only my father. Tapi he belongs to everybody. Itu saja saya punya pegangan.
He acted in 66 films, directed 35 and wrote 33 of them, as well as having composed over 360 songs in his lifetime.
P.Ramlee ni filem sentiasa laku. Dalam 100 tahun pun boleh laku.
Conquering every medium of the entertainment spectrum, P.Ramlee had an infinite charm, laced with a healthy dose of humor, warmth and humility that endeared him to many. But his phenomenal rise from stagehand to screen sensation had ill-prepared him for the downward spiral to rejection and obscurity.
Dia sedih pasal dia datang di balik di my own country, dia kata people tak appreciate dia.
But after death, his popularity soared to incredible heights. On the 29th of May 1973, legendary Malaysian screen icon P.Ramlee dies, broke and broken.
Apa salah dia? Itu perkataan yang dia cakap. Dia tanya saya, adakah people will remember me? Kan saya tak boleh faham jiwa dia. Saya tak boleh buat apa waktu itu.
His sudden death at age 44 is greeted with disbelief and shock around Malaysia, and throws the country into sadness and confusion.
Banyak orang nangis. India, putu mayang, kacang putih, Cina jual sayur. Saya tanya, kenapa lu nangis sampai ini macam? Ini orang banyak baiklah, dia banyak tolong saya. Kenapa dia mati? Kenapa Tuhan Allah ambil sama dia?
Within hours, glowing tributes start to swamp the media.
Tidak ada di Asia dan saya rasa tidak ada di dunia pun yang saya kenal dalam dunia perfilman. Tidak ada tokoh seperti P.Ramlee ini.
But unwanted and unloved by his own people in the years up to his death, guilt begins to prick a nation's collective conscience.
Wah, inilah dia gambar yang dia nak sunting.
His films and songs had grossed millions of dollars and swept more than 30 awards Asia-wide.
Ini kebiasaan lah ya. Masa seseorang tu masih hidup memang tidak dipedulikan ya. Memang apabila dia meninggal baru kita tahu, baru kita sedar bahawa apa yang dia buat tu meninggalkan sesuatu hal khazanah yang sukar untuk kita menidakkan.
Mengapakah kau diciptakan Allah menjadi manusia?
With regret coming in large doses, there is a clamor for his songs and movies and frenzied calls to have him properly honored and remembered. Memorials, roads and buildings are named in his honor, and P.Ramlee is posthumously awarded the Malaysian honorific title Tan Sri, a knighthood in stature. But for a growing number of voices within the entertainment community, it is too little, too late.
Mungkin Mungkin kalau dia masih hidup, dia dapat Tan Sri ni, saya banggalah, saya kata. Tapi sekarang saya tak rasa apalah. Cuma saya rasa sedih. Sesudahnya dia pergi, baru diagung-agungkan. Masa dia hidup, tak ada orang pedulikan dia.
It's sad, but it's true. You want to be loved, you want to be famous, you have to die first.
Revered as the greatest Malaysian entertainer of the last century, P.Ramlee got his big break at the Shaw Studios on Jalan Ampas in Singapore in the 1940s. Known around Asia as the Warner Brothers of Malaysia, it was here that P.Ramlee started working as a stagehand. Within a few years, P.Ramlee was Shaw Studios' most successful movie maker, writing, directing and starring in a series of box office hits.
Ketika itu P.Ramlee punya nama betul-betul tengah menjulang tinggi. Orang datang cari dia tu tak berhenti-berhenti. Sampai saya bilang, Ram, tahun ini bukan lu cari duit. Duit datang cari lu.
At the height of his career, P.Ramlee was not only an idol of the entertainment scenes in Malaysia, but had a huge following overseas, most notably Singapore and Indonesia. He was also a popular figure amongst the Japanese film fraternity. And in a period where Hindi movies ruled the Malaysian box office, Ramlee's films rocked the status quo for the first time in decades.
Dia memang selalu dia nak meninggikan mutu kesenian bangsa kita lah. Dia selalu, umpamanya kalau nak buat filem pun dia selalu nak bikin filem yang bercorak macam kemelayuan ya. Kalaupun lagu pun gitu.
The man whose films, music and charisma inspired and touched the hearts of millions seemed untouchable. But Ramlee was more than just an actor. He was a man of vision. Knowing that colour films were the way forward, making his first screen movie in colour became an obsession for the next couple of years.
Jadi orangnya advance tau Macam 10-20 tahun dia boleh tahu.
In 1965, after completing his last successful film for the Shaw Studio, Singapore, Ramlee left to join Merdeka Film Studio in Kuala Lumpur. For the next 7 years, Ramlee made 18 films with Merdeka Studio, none of which had the box office success of his earlier films. Recording companies which had profited so much from his sweat and tears turned their backs on him.
P.Ramlee hanya ada kontrak di Singapura. Jadi saya pergi tanya Mrs. B untuk kontrak barulah. Mrs. B kata, tak boleh. P.Ramlee ni lagu tak laku.
But even worse, his efforts to recapture his former glory were often ridiculed and vilified by the public and media.
Memang memang pada masa itu memang P.Ramlee teruk kena ya. Apabila dia buat 6 Jahanam ya, lagi teruk dia kena. Pertelagahan P.Ramlee tu ada kan, dengan wartawan selalu kritik dia kan.
P.Ramlee's triumph and fame had once earned him an iconic status. In his final years, he tried desperately but failed to recapture his former glory. But in death, he became a timeless superstar. Born Tuku Zakaria Nyak Puteh in Penang Island on the 22nd of March 1929, P.Ramlee rose from humble beginnings. His father, Tuku Nyak Puteh, was an Indonesian sailor from Aceh who migrated to Malaya. He settled in Penang when he married Cik Ma Hussein, Ramlee's mother. The letter P in P.Ramlee stands for Puteh, his father's name. He used this name in a singing competition when he was 17 years old and emerged champion. Believing it brought him luck, he decided to keep it. Educated in Penang, P.Ramlee went to school as a teenager at the Penang Free School.
Saya kawan dengan yang kenal dengan dia masa darjah 1 sekolah lagi, tapi sekolah lain. Dia sekolah Melayu Kampung Jawa, saya sekolah Melayu Perak Road.
His faithful friend Sukadi remembers going everywhere with the irrepressible Ramlee.
Kalau di Penang selalu kami berdua ronda sana, ronda sini. Basikal dia satu saja basikal, saya tak ada basikal. Naik dua lah.
A cheeky, daredevil teen, Ramlee was always up to mischief wherever he went.
Jadi apa yang ada pokok jambu, pokok kedondong, pokok apa, kalau Ramlee sampai saja tinggal daun dia. Putih-putih semua dia angkat. Ramlee main nakai masa kecil-kecil. Kami di rumah makcik saya tu meja panjang ni, dia balik sekolah dia boleh stand tu daripada sini sampai ujung meja. Mak saya kata Ramlee yang apa lah nak pergi jahanam ke, tak ada apa, dia turun dia stand lagi, cukup 3 kali stand cukup. Arwah miahan, saya sayang sungguh dekat dia.
Composer and musician Datuk Ahmad Nawab, who went to school with Ramlee, recalls seeing him in a scuffle.
Saya same school dengan dia, Francis Light School. Saya panggil dia budak keroncong. Saya selalu main bola itu. Saya tengok dia ada orang duk bergaduh tu. Bergaduh, saya pun pergi tengok, ramai orang keliling lah, macam tengok boxing kan. Saya tengok P.Ramlee ni bergaduh dengan satu orang Cina, tengah bertumbuk lah. Dia tengok muka dia, ada kena pisau kat sini. Ada bekas pisau di muka dia. Parut dia, tapi bila dia dah gemuk dia kan, dah tak apa nampak lah. Waktu dia kurus tu dia nampak.
But the wayward teenager's destiny was changed by a simple twist of fate. Ramlee was about 14 when the Japanese invaded and occupied Malaya from 1941 to 1945 during the Second World War. The Japanese left free movie tickets at post offices in the town centres to entice Malayan youths into their naval camps. It wasn't long before Ramlee and Sukadi got hold of those tickets. To their disappointment, it was a Japanese propaganda movie. But that wasn't the only surprise in store for the mischievous teens. At the end of the movie, they were forced into a waiting truck and ended up as instant recruits of a Japanese naval college. It was this stint at the college that taught P.Ramlee to speak fluent Japanese, play the violin, and later influence his disciplined work style.
Malam-malam bila seminggu 2 kali mengistirahat atau mengajar lah. Lepas graduate saya pergi bahagian Jepun punya signal bendera lah. Dia pasal pada drone, dia masuk bahagian torpedo.
Even while Japanese soldiers were committing atrocities outside their college walls, the two teenagers formed an attachment to the Japanese officers in the college who were good to them.
Dengan di luar-luar saja lah Jepun yang kejam tu, masa sekolah kami tak ada. Jepun surrender dengar semasa dalam training, malam lah kami dengar radio. Jadi kami masuk store, semua pedang-pedang Jepun saya dengan Ramlee ambil sembunyi. Tapuk sembunyi lah, takut dia orang Jepun harakiri kan.
3 years after the end of the Second World War, P.Ramlee and Sukadi were spotted performing at an agricultural fair in Penang by B.S. Rajans, a director with the Shaw Studio. He invited both of them to audition as musicians at the studio and left them 2 train tickets to Singapore. The two friends, who had never been out of Penang, decided to accept the invitation and try their hand at show business. They set off for Singapore on the morning of the Eid Muslim festival that marks the end of the fasting month. P.Ramlee remembered the excitement of celebrating Eid on a train for the first time.
Saya masih teringat pada 8 hari bulan Ogos tahun 48, itu hari yang mula-mula saya keluar dari Pulau Pinang menuju ke Singapura untuk bermain filem. Adalah hari raya yang pertama. Dan pada hari itu saya merayakan hari raya Idul Fitri di dalam kereta api. Jadi saya dapat melihat banyak negara, banyak negeri berhari raya. Dari Pulau Pinang terus ke Singapura.
Dulu kereta api pun tak tahu bahasa asapnya, pakai arangnya, muka dia hitam-hitam cuci muka. Dia pergi take kelas. Jadi kami turun-turun cuci muka semua, barulah makan.
But with little money, the two young hopefuls were living on excitement and adrenaline, not luxuries, as Sukadi vividly remembers about their accommodation.
Bukan bilik tempat tidur, bilik store. So selang 2 hari kami pun pergilah screen test.
Action!
A week after their auditions, Sukadi, who was unsuccessful, returned home to Penang. But Ramlee, who was still hopeful of an acting offer, settled for odd jobs as clapperboy, stagehand, and later as playback singer. Ramlee's patience finally paid off when at age 19 he was given his first screen debut in a supporting role as the villain in the film Cinta. Former actor and crooner, the late Datuk Ahmad Daud, recalled watching the film with friends in Penang.
Bila dia buka baju dalam gambar cerita, kita ni member bergelak. Kenapa? Bila dia angkat tangan tu, P.Ramlee, terlang tang tulang kering punya kuat. Dengan dia punya pipi tu orang panggil macam tonjol ke depan tu, jawab batu kuat. Bahkan bila dia nyanyi pula, kita nak tergelak. Awak suara lain. Menyanyi sayang jiwamu mulai.
Datuk L. Krishnan was one of the few Indian directors hired by the Shaw Studio. He gave P.Ramlee his first lead role in a drama called Bhakti, much to the shock of the studio people.
Saya gunakan Ramlee sebagai hero di dalam Bhakti because he was a singer. So saya pun bilang sama Ramlee, lagu-lagu semua jangan kasih hilang.
Ramlee's screen impact was so impressive that after Bhakti, Krishnan went on to cast Ramlee as the lead in 3 other films. Their immediate success made P.Ramlee a hot property.
He was a good actor, he can't even dance. So I told him, don't worry, I'll keep only up till here. You just walk, walk to rhythm.
Following his first screen test, Ramlee befriended comedian Dying Harris, who had helped him in his early years. Ramlee soon fell for Harris' daughter, Junaina, but Harris wanted Ramlee to marry his older daughter, Junaida, a divorcee. Ramlee, who hated confrontations, took the path of least resistance. In early 1950, he married Junaida. His only biological son, Nasir, was born 3 years later. That same year, Ramlee won Radio Malay's Best Male Singer Award with his song Aziza, making him a sought-after actor and singer. Aziza, composed before he became an actor, soon topped the charts and stayed there for over 4 weeks. Ramlee rode on the song's massive popularity, with every woman wanting to be Aziza. But the constant attention from his legion of female fans took a toll on their marriage. The next year, Junaida decided she had had enough and left him, leaving Nasir in P.Ramlee's care. Despite juggling a rapidly advancing career and looking after Nasir, P.Ramlee always found time for other people, as composer Kasim Masdur, a studio messenger boy at the time, remembers.
Tiap-tiap pagi saya mesti kedudukan P.Ramlee. Ketika dia mandi, favorite singer dia Nat King Cole. Saya kena main tujuan gramophone yang pakai spin, pakai kunci Yang banyak membimbing saya dalam muzik ni ialah Allahyarham Tan Sri P.Ramlee. Dialah yang mengajar saya bagaimana nak tulis lagu dan bagaimana nak membaca not. Lama-kelamaan dia suruh saya tulis lagu yang dicipta. Dia lantik saya sebagai penolong pengarah muzik dia.
To composer Ahmad Nawab, P.Ramlee's extraordinary gift for music more than made up for his lack of formal musical training.
Saya tengok dia pandainya, dia boleh baca note without playing instrument. He can sing. Sekiranya lagu saya dinyanyi oleh P.Ramlee, I can say that barulah saya percaya diri saya komposer.
Not long after his divorce from Junaida, P.Ramlee was back on the dating scene. Beauty queen Mariani Ismail, who was Miss Singapore 1951, caught his eye.
Kami selalu dating lah. Bila tak syuting aja, dia akan jumpa saya. Bila dah jatuh cinta, dia bilang, saya nak kahwin sama you, dia bilang. Tapi saya tak mau you berlakon. You nak nyanyi boleh. saya ajari nyanyi.
P.Ramlee had found the new love of his life. But by forbidding Mariani to become an actress, Ramlee had unwittingly set the stage for his own heartbreak. Mariani was being seriously courted by the Shaw Studios, and someone else had a very special place in her heart. After his divorce from first wife Junaida, P.Ramlee was convinced he had found love again with ex-Singapore beauty queen Mariani. But he didn't want his future wife to be an actress. P.Ramlee was unaware that Mariani was being hotly pursued by film studios, including Shaw Studio, for a film career. And while Ramlee was important to Mariani, she was not prepared to hurt her sister, Saloma, who on her return from Australia had fallen hard for P.Ramlee.
Habis satu malam tu Ramlee datang ambil saya pergi makan, ajak pergi makan. Ramlee dia very romantic, orangnya suka peluk. Saya tengok Saloma tengok macam terlalu admire.
Mariani could not bear to watch her sister's infatuation. So she decided to sacrifice her own relationship and find a way to steer P.Ramlee into Saloma's arms.
Adik aku tak boleh cari, suami aku boleh cari. Macam mana nak marahkan si P.Ramlee ni kan? Teringat yang dia tak kasih berlakon. Kebetulan jalan nampas tengah sibuk kat saya. Saya kejam mata sign kontrak 5 tahun. Saya pergi rumah Ramlee. Saya cakap Remy, saya panggil dia Remy, dia panggil saya Mary. Saya cakap Remy, I dah sign kontrak tau, I nak jadi bintang filem. Terus mata dia sepet, telinga dia merah. Oh, mau jadi bintang filem ya, dia kata.
Mariani was baffled at P.Ramlee's lack of reaction, but she soon found out why.
Dia pergi kat Mr. Quack, itu baru punya bintang filem Mariam, dia sign kontrak semalam kan. You jangan kasih masuk dia saya punya set, dan saya tak mau berlakon sama dia. You jangan suggest saya berlakon dengan dia. Terus Mr. Quack jumpa saya. Mariam, itu you punya nama sudah tukar ya, Mariani. Itu P.Ramlee tak mau berlakon sama you. Dia tak kasih, jangan pergi masuk set dia tau. Nanti dia terus tak mau syuting, dia mogok nanti. Baiklah. Terus tak tegur lah. Selama 7 tahun.
Ramlee's popularity as a charismatic actor and singer rose with each movie. Ramlee gained a reputation as a bit of a ladies' man. In 1954, 6 years after he started working with Shaw as a stagehand, P.Ramlee was performing before the Sultan and Queen of Perak, North Malaysia. Pleased with the show, the Sultan asked Norizan Muhammad Noor, one of his wives, to catch the show on the second night. Norizan confided in academic Professor Dr. Wan Hashim that the Sultan's orders came with a warning.
Tapi dia beri amaran, Norizan, kamu jangan pandang matanya, kerana mata P.Ramlee itu magnetik, katanya, ada besi berani, takut jatuh cinta. Norizan pada waktu itu memang tidak begitu berminat dengan P.Ramlee, tapi oleh kerana seperti arahan suaminya, dia pergi menonton.
When Ramlee was introduced to Norizan, there was instant chemistry between them.
Permaisuri berkenalan, terus jatuh cinta kepada P.Ramlee.
Norizan became one of P.Ramlee's biggest fans. Although the distance between Singapore and Perak kept them physically apart, it did not stop them from communicating over the telephone. But P.Ramlee kept his distance, respecting Norizan's status as the Sultan's consort.
Dan suatu percintaan yang cukup sukar, bersembunyi, dan saya diberitahu oleh Norizan bagaimana tuanku mula tahu perhubungan mereka itu ialah kerana bil telefon itu tiba-tiba melonjak naik. Di luar kebiasaan. Di luar kebiasaan ini ada sesuatu.
Their relationship continued to blossom. However, Ramlee was apprehensive about the huge potential for conflict in getting involved with someone of Norizan's status. But it never materialized.
Tak ada gaduh-gaduh, tak ada apa. Sebabnya apa yang Norizan bagi tahu sama saya, memang Sultan pun sayang dengan P.Ramlee.
P.Ramlee and Nourizan were married on February the 6th, 1955. And Ramlee voluntarily stayed away from Perak until the Sultan's demise in 1962. News of Ramlee's marriage to Nourizan came as a big blow to Mariani, his former love. She had broken up with him in order to matchmake him with her sister Saloma.
Terkejut saya. Aku dah berkorban gini, dia pergi kahwin dengan Nourizan. Aku tak dikahwin dengan Saloma. Bila dikahwin dengan Nourizan, Saloma merajuk lagi. Dia pergi Melbourne pula. Dia menyanyi lagi, jauh lagi. Bawa diri.
Marriage to Nourizan coincided with an exciting phase in P.Ramlee's professional life. In 1956, P.Ramlee played the title role in the historical film Hang Tuah and wrote the music. He won the award for Best Musical Score at the Asia Pacific Film Festival. It was the first international award for Ramlee and Shaw, and Ramlee dedicated one of the film's most popular songs to his new wife, Nourizan.
Masih dulu dan jumpa dia takkan tinggal kat sana takkan membawa segala tidak sebanyak lah jadi tak ada berkorban kerana Ramlee begitu dia kata Nourizan anak karang satu lagu dulu dia kata berkorban aku saja aku nyawa tu maknanya kerana dia rumah dia juga lah tak sebagai ada tuanku semua.
With Nourizan, P.Ramlee's appearance and lifestyle underwent a complete change. She wanted the palace decorum she was used to observed in the family home. Nasir, his son with his previous wife, 8 years old at the time, remembers life with Nourizan and his new adopted and step siblings.
Bapak saya makan kami kena disappear. Saya dengar suara pun. Tunggu Nourizan panggil. Cacing, dia panggil cacing. Cacing, Norma, Betty, Sazali turun. Baru kami boleh turun. Bilik 4 bilik, tiap-tiap minggu bertukar. Bapak selalu masuk salah bilik.
But it was during his marriage to Nourizan that P.Ramlee, the entertainer, was at his most prolific. Some say she was the muse for many of his greatest works. In 1955, 26-year-old P.Ramlee wrote and acted in his directorial debut Penarik Beca, one of the most memorable films in the history of Malay cinema. It catapulted him into the ranks of more established directors. Featuring his enduring hit song Aziza, written 10 years earlier, the film won 5 major awards, a result of P.Ramlee's multifaceted skills on the set.
Dia suka art of feeling. Macam kenapa? Macam-macam gitu tau. Dia banyak art lah. Dia banyak ajar saya art. Macam Amran, macam gitu tau. Dia suka ajar. Orang kalau tak tahu macam Hindustan, tapi art.
With Malay audiences responsive to films directed by Indian talent, Ramlee had to maintain some traces of Indian flavour in Penarik Beca.
Kemudian ada scene-scene yang seolah-olah macam film Hindustan, rumah kocok, masuk air dan nasi turun bawah. Itu semua kebanyakan film Hindustan.
But P.Ramlee was not averse to rocking the status quo. And in his follow-up directorial work Semera Padi, Ramlee made a film totally devoid of any trace of Indian influence. The film's success was a milestone for Malay films.
Ini diakui sendiri oleh Shaw Brothers. Tidak ada satu filem yang boleh merosakkan filem Hindustan. P.Ramlee seorang lah dibilang yang merosakkan koleksi filem Hindustan.
P.Ramlee's third film, Pancha Delima, was the only one he directed but did not act in. The script was written by one of the Shaw brothers. At the preview of the film, attended by Shaw Studios' mostly Indian directors, Run Shaw suddenly stopped the show.
Run Shaw duduk depan, tahan, filem tu stop. Buka lampu, semua preview room terang. Semua pengarah waktu tu ada, dipanggil oleh Run Shaw, termasuk P.Ramlee. Jadi Shaw Brother marah. Shaw Brother bilang, you are director. Satu budak muda boleh buat filem yang baik, kau yang telah banyak pengarah tak berani ambil filem tu.
Shaw was furious with these more established directors' lack of confidence and reluctance to work on his script. But with Ramlee's success, the Shaws provided more opportunities for new Malay directors to direct movies for the studio. The stinging rebuke from Shaw, however, had sowed the seeds of discontent amongst directors and actors. In 1957, P.Ramlee walked away with a Best Actor award at the Tokyo 4th Asian Film Festival.
Katakanlah Sazli.
This time for his unforgettable performance in the tearjerker Anakku Sazali, where he played